on planting for food and jobs, yet food prices are what? On the rise. So that is the paradox of basic economic policy, that your idea is to increase productivity. That will drive down price. Do you get it? So that is the paradox that we are trying to analyze, and this 24-hour economy will fix it. Now, if you look at the budget for 2024, you realize that agri sector grew by 6.3%. So when you have your agriculture sector increasing by 6.3%, the expectation is that there will be surplus food. How come prices are increasing? Do you get the point? So what it simply means is that Ghana uses the expenditure approach in determining our GDP. So we go to the market, pick a bag of cassava, a bag of maize, and use the price in the market to calculate our GDP. However, we don't do value addition. That will tell us that the input-output metrics, that will show that fertilizer was this, farm acre of land was used to be this, now it is this. We don't use all this value chain. We come to pick the final output. So you realize that your GDP can grow, but it does not necessarily translate into the country. So Ghana doesn't measure the absolute output produced. We rather use the monetary value, and we take it from the market. So that is why MPP can boast of so much invested in planting for food and jobs, yet food prices is what? Increasing. So we want to change the dynamics of production. Number two is also, I talked about enhanced competitiveness. If you look at Michael Porter, he said the world is a global village. Ghana has acquired foreign taste due to cost of doing business in Ghana. So for example, there is a local sanitary pad company that can produce to our demand. So there exists a demand for sanitary pad. But why are we not producing? The cost of producing sanitary pads in Ghana is higher. Hence, it will increase its prices at the end of the day. But the imported product, because of government policies abroad, they are able to produce at lower cost. So when their products come here, you see that the prices are lower. And we are rational beings. We go in for lower prices. So we have gradually acquired foreign taste. Hence, all our industrialization drive has always suffered setbacks due to the fact that our prices are high. And the reason why it's high is the cost of doing business. So for us to increase national competitiveness, because we said it is an import substitution and export-led economy. So if you don't make your product, your cost of doing business lower for people to produce, when they export it, our products will also be expensive out there. So you will not achieve anything. And the third one too is that we talked about the balance of payment position. What is always making our currency not stable is the demand for dollar and other currencies to purchase imported goods. That is the basis of why our cedi is not stable. So this basically tells us that, in fact, recently, it is estimated that annually we spend over 2.5 billion importing cereal. 2.5 billion. However, Ghana has the capacity to produce it locally. So if you don't make a deliberate plan to ensure that you harness all the potentials you have here to produce, the overdependence on imports will keep increasing, and then there will always be pressure on your cedi. Do you get the point? And then the fourth aspect is creation of sustainable development and jobs. You take a typical organization, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. they've closed. And I'll give you all, in fact, Ghana produces only 10% of our food we consume in Ghana. 10. 90% of those foods are imported. So it clearly tells you that there's a demand of 90% we get outside. What policy should we put in place to produce this 90? It will require manpower. And those places that we import, funny enough, they run 24 hours. Those countries that supply us the remaining 90% of the production we consume here, run 24 hours. Go to US, go to Germany, go to France, Sydney and other places. They all run 24 hours. And yet, we are at the receiving side of the thing, and we say 24 hours is not possible. So that's what I'm saying, that these are the four basic areas that the 24-hour economy seeks to enhance. And how do we do it? President Mahama brought out a very small policy framework. The details are not out, but it is even self-explanatory. One, he said that his idea will be anchored on four basic areas. One will be modernization of agriculture. I've already told you that we don't analyze the agri sector properly. So our goal has always been final output, final output, final output. So we pump in money and we use the raw GDP to determine our success. No. So modernizing agriculture means that investing in our potentials I mentioned Michael Porter's earlier. He said that countries should focus or concentrate on their potential and then lessen their weaknesses. So if we have, Ghana have the potential of producing abundant rice, yet we'll have less than 4 processing rice plants in Ghana. That is a problem. Do you get the point? So we are saying that we want to modernize agriculture by focusing primarily on our potential. Look, I will give you a typical example. Why is it that the 1D1F policy has not achieved food security, has not achieved sustainable jobs, has not achieved reduction in imports? Why? Because the policy has not been targeted to solve a problem. So they dole out resources to companies that will not resonate in the reduction of imports. So, for example, if you look at the Dwaboase gas plant, we save $300 million annual. But for the setting up of that plant, Ghana would have needed $300 million from the Bank of Ghana to import gas. So what it tells you is that you need to prioritize areas that you think you have competitive advantage. So right now in Ghana, we have competitive advantage in cocoa, we have competitive advantage in rice production, competitive in terms of sugar because there's so much demand in it. So why don't you invest in these critical sectors? But you know where they rather invest? They sometimes go invest even in service companies. That is where the problem is. So they can say they've set up 261 factories, but what is its impact on our nation's future? So those are the things that we need to really unveil properly. So it will be anchored on the agriculture modernization program. The second thing too is that access to credit by the private sector. The government has crowded out the private sector. If you look at DDEP program they are doing, 137 billion from banks and non-banks institutions have been cut by this government. How did you get there? Government increased its treasury bill rate through the policy rate. So banks, because they now do with short-term financing and investment, banks will now go and purchase government treasury bills. So when a private sector person comes to borrow money, because of high interest rate, the private sector is unable to borrow. But government has certainty of payment, that's risk-free bond, because government bonds are classified as risk-free. Until this MPP government came to now tell us that treasury bills and other government bonds are now risky assets. Ideally, in literature, we believe that all these bonds are normally risk-free bonds. So if you are a bank or an investor and you see a government treasury bill and then a private investor whose credit score you don't even trust, who will you invest to? So you go for the government. So government has borrowed out most of the private sector. So that's why you see that industry grew by negative 2.2% last year and this year. It is growing negative because the drivers of the industrial growth have lack of access to credit. Do you get the point? So President Mahama's second area will be you create an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. The final one is also our regulatory framework. Cost of registration, our laborious tax systems, and our claims payment, these VAT complexities that they've introduced, all these things makes cost of doing business expensive. So as a foreign company that is trying to establish in Ghana, you compare us to Rwanda and Kenya and those things, companies would like to relocate to those countries rather than ours. So because of these things, President Mahama proposes 4 strategic interventions that he intends to do. One, on the 24-hour economy. One is to say that he will provide security and public safety measures. Look, in Tamale, there is only one fuel station that works 24 hours. So if you are coming from Bolga or these people that come from Burkina Faso and all those, and they come and they don't have fuel, when the fuel station doesn't operate that day, nobody can get fuel. And you know why it is so? Because people cannot trust their investments will be safe in the night. So President Mahama says that he will increase police visibility and other security services, and even incorporate private sector security to assist in making the night economy a viable option. In fact, even these, the mobile money vendors even close by 6 p.m., all because they don't feel safe operating in anti-economy. So the security angle, companies that hitherto would have given security as an excuse that we don't operate in the evening because of our security challenges, they will now want to operate a night economy. Number two is that he is talking about tax exemptions. Look, this year, government has granted tax exemptions to a tune of 47 billion cedis to foreign companies, selected companies. So if a foreign company operating in Ghana can get tax exemption to a tune of 47 billion cedis, what about local producers? We don't get anything. So when a foreign producer produces it, and me too, I produce as a local investor or a private person, and I produce the same good, who do you think Ghanaians will buy the goods from? So that is what is the problem. The tax exemption schemes have not been applied properly. So competitive advantage we have in certain areas, tax exemptions should only be given to local firms. That will enable them to produce what? Higher and cheaper products. And when we give them tax exemptions, it means that production costs will come down and then they can expand by employing more people. That's the second aspect. The third aspect is also the new concept we brought. That is the time of use meters, provision of time of use meters during peak hours. If you go to Olam Ghana, for example, our production capacity is there, but we have peak periods. Peak periods simply suggests the period at which the production is high. That is when there is high demand from the market. So you need to increase your capacity and in production. What President Mahama is saying is that during those peak periods, you install such meters that will reduce electricity consumption within that peak periods. So in the build-up of cost of production, you add energy cost. It's factored into their output that they normally bring out in the market. So they look at their cost of production. You look at your fuel, your utility payments, all those things, employees' costs. You add all those things in charging the final output. President Mahama is saying that one of the biggest chunk of cost of production is energy. So he will give you a specific meter that will ensure that at the period of production, you are paying very, very low tariffs. So companies will be motivated to sign on to the program, the 24-hour economic program. They will sign up to it because cost of energy has always been a headache for them. And the last and the most important one too is the financing aspect. Through the National Innovation and Entrepreneurship Fund, the YES program the government is coming to do, the 1D1F program, government has given money to people without targeting. That is why companies that are already doing well, they give them money. Companies that are not doing well, nobody knows them. So this financial component says that, okay, President Mahama wants agenda 100% or zero import of rice by 2026. Any company willing to invest in rice production, come and take finance. That is a deliberate policy with deliverables and milestones. So with that one, it is not just throwing money anyhow. You have targeted a specific area and you are encouraging investors and companies to drive their investment towards that place and to achieve a specific milestone by a certain period. So with that one, companies are focused. So the money is not just thrown anywhere, anyhow. The money is geared towards achieving a particular problem. Sugar, we don't even have one processing plant of sugar. The one we built is now left to the mercy of the weather. But we import 100%. So if President Mahama says that he wants private investors to produce locally made in Ghana sugar and zero import of sugar by 2027. So any investor seeing this opportunity and the existing demand, the investors would like to invest in the production of sugar because there is a 100% demand of sugar already, just that we import it. So these are the basic things we need to do to stimulate production and to also encourage what? Demand. So when I hear people say that the 24-hour economy, one, there is no demand, I laugh because they don't appreciate what demand is. Demand can either be, we have three forms of demand: existing demand, created demand, and induced demand. The existing demand is naturally people demand water. It is part of nature. So for survival, you don't have anything but to demand it. Do you know that we even import water now because of Galamsey? The second thing is the created demand. The demand never exists, but you create it. I'll give you a typical example. There was nothing called mobile money. Was there mobile money? We used to use the traditional banking systems, and then you send your money to your grandfather by going to STC, give the money to somebody going to your hometown. Sometimes it will take 1 week before your mother says, I've received the money. MTA, through the government, NCA, brought out the first mobile money payment platform. Who forced us to go and take it? So the demand was created. So as at the time mobile money was not existing, if you had told somebody that I want to bring mobile money, the type of mindset MPP have, they would have said that mobile money is not possible because nobody demands it at that time. So you create demand by providing services that will what? Be self-demanded. Do you get the point? In fact, WhatsApp, initially the purpose of phone calls, mobile phones was just for phone calls and texting. And you could text through their SMS platform. Somebody thought of WhatsApp. Today, even elderly people say you should download WhatsApp for them. That is the created demand. Then we have the induced demand. With the induced demand, there are already products in the market of similar nature. However, you add additional features that will make sure that people drive towards that. And I'll give you a typical example. iPhone 14 and 15. Are they not all iPhone? We like iPhone, don't we? But what will make you leave iPhone 14 to 15 is an enhanced component that will induce you to purchase it. So when people say that there is no demand, it's because they don't appreciate what demand is. Do you get the point? Well, however, recently, the government sent an airline to Parliament on importation of certain goods. What was the rationale? The rationale was that, one, Ghana has an existing capacity to produce such goods. So they admit that Ghana has competitive advantage of those products. That is the demand we are talking about. So President Mahama is not coming to say that everybody in Ghana should do 24/7. That's not what he's saying. And when we allow people to speak that way, we muddy the discussion. The discussion is a strategic policy framework targeted at specific deliverables. For example, we are not saying that schools should be open 24, lectures should be happening at midnight. No, that's not the goal. Our focus is on agriculture, private sector development, modernization of agro-processing factories and manufacturing companies, and also public service delivery institutions that will enhance the production in those areas. For example, we talk about litigation and costs. Costs can run 24/7 because businesses that we want to create may have challenges with our regulatory frameworks that they want to challenge. And the backlogs of business cases in court frustrates clients and thereby making people relocate to other countries where there is speedy and efficient legal service delivery. You get the point? So our idea is not just to say that everybody should do 24/7. When you do it that way, you dilute the impact of the discussion. So basically that is about the finally on the 24-hour. I hear people also talk about that the 24-hour economy already exists. That is also the illogical aspect I see these people exhibiting. First of all, you said that 24-hour exists. However, in the 2024 budget, the minister in page 92 is already proposing a night economy. So if something exists, why are you proposing a night economy? It means that there is a potential for us to tap into the night section of the day. Don't you get it? You mentioned mobile money, you mentioned police are working 24, you mentioned soldiers, you mentioned all those apprenticeship bars, shop bars, and all those things. Yes, it is legitimate, but what is the policy direction? What drives those things? It is so uncoordinated. We always complain that the informal sector is not properly taxed, it's not properly identified. This policy seeks to formalize it. In any case, the platforms that the NPP government talks about, none of them. If you take out the Accra Digital Center out, that to provide the business processing outsourcing services to those companies running these things. If you take out the fiber optic that the NDC did, it is just like claiming roofing house to ownership than the person who put the structure up to the roofing level. NPP roofed the project, wants to claim the entire house But they forgot that somebody built it from foundation to the roofing stage, the lintel level. So you cannot claim something that you don't know how it began. So when they say such things exist, it exists in London, yet there is a conversation around 24 hours. It exists in Kenya, yet there is a conversation around 24 hours. So it means that there is a great potential that they are not seeing. Thankfully, there is a saying that when a fish goes into the deep part of the or comes out to tell you that a crocodile has one eye, who are you to argue? Alan Chamante, who is a stalwart from their party, endorses the idea of the 24 hour. However, said we must create the necessary infrastructure to let it survive. On this note, for me, I believe that for us to have a realistic GDP that would translate into lives of people, we must do this 24 hour. That will guarantee sustainable jobs for the youth, increase productivity, enhance national competitiveness, enhance our balance of payment position so that we'll have stable currency, we'll have lower interest rate for businesses to survive. That's what I would say about the 24-hour economy.